And
Here we are.
Juice it. All right, Cody.
Yep.
You watched Tenet. Finally, we've all seen it.
Oh my god, let's talk about Tenet.
Let's just jump into it.
Let's just jump in.
We've been waiting for so long to say anything because some of us have been straggling behind.
When did you guys see it? Like right away?
Weeks ago.
I didn't even want to see it.
That's not what we asked. That's not what we asked,
That's a lie.
John.
I wanted to
I didn't even want to see it. I was just dragged to the theater.
No, I forgot that it came out, and then my buddy texted me, and he was like, "We got to go," and it was opening weekend, so I saw it right away.
I didn't even want to see it.
I was the first person in America to see it.
Yeah,
weekend.
honestly, I was the only one at the theater.
I was bringing it up in our L10 meetings that we should all go see it, and you guys never want to go see things as a company.
Oh,
I
God.
did, and then I never heard
Mike was
about it.
casually like, "Well, I already promised some people."
Yeah, I have friends outside of work and they're cooler.
I did.
Before we get into it, I
saw
have to
with a buddy of
apologize
mine.
for my appearance. If anyone's watching this, I was supposed to cut my hair. We do it at home now, so I like to trim my beard and cut my hair. But I ordered some guards and a kid's blanket came instead on Amazon. So don't know what that was all about, but I had to return it.
You couldn't find use for the blanket?
Well, I was going to keep it, but then they said I had to return it.
Do you have like a self-conscious moment right there? You're like,
No.
"Oh wait, people are watching this."
No.
Yeah.
I was just apologizing in advance. And Cody, you said you wanted to talk about beards.
Well,
so
I was going to
brought it
say,
up.
just I feel like probably because we're all coming into the fall. It's
It was
getting
more of a
little colder.
segue.
We all have good beard length right now. I think we're all.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So
It was just an observation.
Mine's a little straggly.
Oh, self-
It always is though. I don't trim it often.
I think I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone. Actually, I don't wanna
Just go for
I'm
it.
going to stop with my
go.
beard talk.
Yours is nice.
Well, I'm actually going to trim it down. I just don't like shaving. That's why I just shave and then I let it go for a while and then shave it again. And I don't know if I'm going to have it long, but I don't like when this is actually one of the biggest things that annoyed me in Tenet is his beard. It's like cartoon. It's so perfect. And I just can't stand the perfect the looking for like razor perfect edges on beards. It just that drives me crazy. So that's all I was gonna say.
I thought he looked sharp.
Drives you crazy in a good way?
No, I hate it.
Oh.
It's distracting at work for him. He can't even deal with it.
I think about it all the time. I can't focus. So I'm like, his beard and Tenet. It's the worst.
I appreciate how you tried to bring that back to Tenet.
Yeah.
Well, it's genuinely something that bothered me in the movie.
Or what else bothered you?
One of the things that bothered me.
Let's all go around and give it a nice rating.
Okay. What is it all?
Let's rate it after we talk about it because we don't even know.
Yeah, I know my rating will be biased by whatever you guys say though. That's my only thing.
Well,
All right. Let's start with what is it about?
What did you think?
Oh
it was
my
about?
God.
You just watched it.
Oh my god. Okay.
I saw it so long ago.
I know. I had to look up what it was about.
Okay, so here's I watched it last night. I didn't read anything about it.
Perfect.
So this is coming totally off the top of my head of what my impression of what it was about.
Great.
The story is humanity's just chugging along, doing its thing, destroying the earth, right? Like eventually we get so bad with our treatment of the environment that the oceans rise and rivers dry up and humanity's in like this crisis state.
See, I missed that. I missed that whole part.
And humans have developed sometime far in the future the ability to invert first objects in time, but then they've actually discovered the formula to reverse time altogether.
But it's at one specific location with a specific machine.
No, that's
No.
what puts those objects. That's what inverts those objects. But why do you?
The machine is the technology. They discovered how to invert objects. So an object that's moving forward through time, they put
This is what the movie is about. Okay.
they put the object in this machine, and it inverts it, and it changes its course through time to go backwards. And that's just objects. But there was a scientist far off in the future, I forget her name, who discovered a formula to actually invert time itself.
Was that the algorithm?
The algorithm. And that introduces and so there's the powers that be in the future that want to basically save their own existence because the world's falling apart, that they think that they can reverse time. I think this is what was going. They think that they can reverse time and avoid their own destruction. That's why but the trouble with that is this idea of like the grandfather paradox, where can you go back, and if you could go back in time and kill your grandfather, would you even exist to kill your grandfather? Is like the thing they kept coming up with.
They call that out too. They like talk about it because they're like the viewers are going to be so confused.
Right.
We better bring this up in dialogue
and multiple times.
Yeah,
but it also was kind of to save their own hide, because you see that woman dive off the boat, right? You see her dive off the boat, and then in the very end, you see that again. You're like, oh, that was that moment when she went back and killed the husband.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the whole thing wouldn't have happened if that happened.
pretty much the plot and the actual storyline.
So they tried to like talk their way around the
worst part of it.
grandfather paradox by mentioning the grandfather paradox, but it didn't take away the grandfather paradox.
Like,
Oh, you guys got way more out of that than I did, though. Like,
let me ask you
I
this:
didn't
do you
even hear
remember
it.
the opening scene? Do you remember what was even happening, or like who that person was that
It
they
started at the
captured, or-
opera
the
house.
opera house.
Yeah, which
And
That was
that's
just
the-
to
But
set
this is
up-
a movie. You literally can't talk about the plot in the order of the events that you saw them, because that's not the point of the movie. Like,
I know.
so this is why it's such a mind-bending, annoying.
It's not though. Like that's the thing. They don't draw you in enough for you to ever be mind bent.
I disagree.
Because-
I think you can get pulled in enough on the plot, on the whodunit side.
I
so
mean,
to
we're not
speak.
doing podcasts talking about other movies.
but that doesn't speak to emotional engagement.
Yeah.
And I think that's your point, right? Because that's how I feel too. I'm like, I don't care about these characters.
I
Well,
was
it-
emotionally frustrated
It
the whole movie.
It moved so quickly. I was actually a little bit impressed at first, like how quickly they were going from one person, one conversation to the next. I was like, wow, they don't even care about setting up
And
where
that's
they
that-
are. I was like, that's kind of cool. And then it just kept going, picking up faster. Now I'm talking to this guy, and this guy knows this guy, so then he goes to that guy, and that guy knows this girl, so he goes to that girl.
Dude, they weren't even cutting to establishing shots.
No,
it would be like
exactly.
two people walking, and it would be like, now we're in India, like that.
Yeah, I
two
know.
people walking in India.
Exactly.
You're just like, what?
Like, I think a lot of that was just getting it down to time, because I bet you it was a really long
It was
edit.
cut like a trailer. It was
Yeah.
a 2.5 hour trailer. And the whole time I was like, yeah, I can't wait till they have
So
the moment
because
where they
of that,
explain.
all right.
And it's like 2 hours into the movie. I'm like, wait, I thought that, when are they going to explain what's happening?
I know, but because of that, I was already feeling like I was lagging behind because, what's going on, and then all of a sudden he starts caring deeply about this woman, and I don't even know who she is, and I don't care about her.
Right.
And not even that, I didn't know what was going on because I couldn't hear them speaking.
Well, that's what I was going to say
That
too.
was the
I thought I
most-
needed to turn subtitles
All
on.
right, let's just pause there and talk about that for a
the
second.
sound mix
What happened?
on purpose. I think it was 100% on purpose. How
What?
could it not be?
What?
What?
No, you know what it
Oh,
sounds. You know what it sounds like to me. It sounds like a high end surround sound mixer in a high end surround sound mixing environment.
But they didn't turn it on.
Who didn't do the mix down for theaters that don't have that same surround. It literally feels like there's no center channel
No,
where the dialogue is supposed to
There's
be.
no way a movie of that budget.
I agree, but it feels that way.
Sure, that might be the outcome, like of the experience, is that someone mixed it improperly. But these people didn't. They knew exactly what they were doing.
I mean, what is exactly what you're doing when the background Foley is like at the same level of your dialogue? That's not intentional. That's
You think, but you honestly think that the people working on that movie,
because different technologies like DTS or whatever, different Dolby.
It feels like they just got into it and then they got time crunched, or they were just trying to release it or something, and it just.
Well, remember when you
Why
were
would they do
telling
it on
me
purpose?
what happened when you saw Interstellar? Like, Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
does this on purpose.
this is a thing that he does. So this is actually really funny. I was telling John, the guy I watched the movie with last night, this story. When I saw Interstellar back in 2014, I saw it in IMAX, and basically the same concept and story of this movie, by the way, like in terms of the big picture. Humans destroy the Earth. They need to manipulate time in order to try to save it. That's basically the concept of Tenet, and then Interstellar. So when I was watching Interstellar in the IMAX theater, it was so loud. It was damaging ears. Like, it was very uncomfortable. And I was looking around and everyone's like this, cringing and just covering their ears. And this is going to be my thing on this show. I'm going to pull up my old emails. So
You
I
have us
emailed
saved?
Christopher Nolan and said,
I don't, what do you-
buddy,
Hey, Chris.
what?
I don't like your movie.
it's funny because that it actually, yeah. So I just type in my email IMAX, and here comes this email 11/28/2014. Subject line: turn it down.
Oh my gosh.
I said, watching Interstellar as we speak. It's way too loud. Everyone has their hands over their ears, and it's not enjoyable. Turn it down. Thanks.
Who are you emailing?
IMAX info at natick@jordans.com.
Never.
Did you send that in the middle of the
In the
movie?
middle
I
of the
would
movie.
never.
And
do
so
that.
look at this. 3 minutes later, I get a response, still sitting in the theater. Hey, Cody, thank you for your email. You may not see this until the end of the movie, but I've lowered the volume to -3 dB, which is the lowest I have access to do manually.
Wow.
IMAX has presets for audio, and we are not permitted to adjust the volume at all,
I cannot believe you actually got through.
except by specific guest requests. So thank you for making this request. Unfortunately, IMAX has held us strictly to preset audio levels as they were selected by the filmmakers.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have requested it to not be altered in any way. At the end of the credits, you'll see an email address, blah, blah, blah. So the point is that they have contractual obligations with the production houses, the filmmakers, to keep the volume at a certain level. And clearly, Nolan is like as high up as it can be.
Yeah.
And
It's not even just that.
Yeah,
it's
it's not
the
just the
mix.
volume.
no, I know.
Well,
That's just an anecdote. But the point is that he clearly, what I'm saying is, I think that it's intentional, and I don't think that he made all the dialogue unintelligible by accident. I just feel like he's.
Oh, I do. I think it's a mistake.
How could that be a
I
mistake?
can't imagine someone going through the effort of writing all of this high-level concept, giving so much info dumping scene by scene so that people can try to follow along, just to pull the rug out from underneath them and be like, you can't follow along because it's too
Because I noticed in
garbled.
one scene where the man, the villain, yells at his wife, and it clips in the scene as if it was recorded improperly. So it clipped the audio when he turned to yell at her. I thought that's weird that it would be clipping. Maybe the person who was recording the audio was inexperienced and they couldn't go back to fix anything and they couldn't do any ADR because of COVID situations. I was thinking to myself,
I mean, there's a lot of things
could there have been something in
to not, like, there's a lot of ways
in the
around
industry that made it happen?
I'm not buying it. I'm not. See, this is my point. It's like we've all seen many Christopher Nolan movies where you could hear the dialogue.
that. Chris, can you solve this for us?
Yeah. Hold on, he's calling.
We need to reach out at info.
But
at-
you're saying all those
Votary.
other ones you can hear it.
Right. That's my point. So he's obviously more than capable of
No,
doing
I think
a
it's-
dialogue mixed down. That
I
you
think
can
they
hear.
just said this is the angle they took on it was this is going to be a blockbuster. You know, you see all the ads on Facebook for it. It was all big movies are back, big movie blockbuster
Yeah.
action. Like they didn't care about the story, they didn't care about emotional engagement, they didn't care about anything. They were just saying, get it out there, get it done.
Well, maybe some, but I was reading things where whoever the writers of the articles were I don't know how real this is or not, but they're saying that Chris Nolan was believing that this was going to be the thing that brought people back to the theaters. And I'm like, you know, and he wanted a date, and then they were pushing back, and like there was a whole political thing around it, right? I'm like, I was built up. I wanted to go see it, and I was let down.
So
I
what
didn't-
did you like about it, Cody?
I think it was not boring.
Really?
Yeah.
You weren't bored?
No, I think that it was.
I was exhausted by trying to figure it out.
Oh,
Fatigued.
I think
I gave
in
up.
some ways it was masterful, and I think you and I have talked about this with Chris Nolan specifically. Like when he goes for something, he goes after it completely. Like he's playing with ideas and concepts that are really complex and just
he's making them complex, because the idea of inversion time is a really cool time travel idea. Like, all these ideas were so sick, but then he just makes it overly complicated in an unnecessary way.
I don't know about that. Like, trying to visualize two different time signatures coming together in reverse. I mean, that was masterful, and it was super, super interesting to watch. I just, in the end, I felt like this hole in my heart, like, I should care about this, and I'm visually intrigued, but I don't care.
But
and that was the characters.
To me, before you get into the fact that the characters weren't something, at least for me, that I related to or cared about, before that, you look at the, I call it the effect, or the and it's not a gag, but like the time thing that he does in every film in some respect.
Yeah.
When I look at Memento, I think, oh, I could imagine having amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I look at Insomnia, I could think, well, I could imagine having insomnia and going to Alaska where it's daytime all the time. You know, like, that's really weird. With Interstellar, I was like, okay, this is a little, I can't imagine really going to space, but that's crazy that there's like this theory of, what was it, relativity, or whatever it was that made time different on a planet, like gravity. Like, it was like believable. Even Inception, for me, I was like, I've dreamt in my dreams that I've gone to sleep. Like, I've had a little bit of a dream in a dream. And so it was so kind of mind-bending for me to think, like, I could...
You're talking about relatability.
Yeah,
like
relatability.
Well,
this one,
those were all one idea. Right?
Yeah,
it's one idea, and it's not an idea within an idea within an idea within an idea.
Yeah, but I couldn't picture even the inversion. Oh, it was so cool. It looked so cool. Right?
Yeah.
It felt so cool. Like, the scenes were pulled off so well.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, nothing in there is like making me think like, oh, that's possible. Or, you know, I feel like the bigger he went with stuff, he always held on to like, this is a possibility. That's why it's cool. That's why I'm exploring it. It's because it could actually happen.
Great point.
So cool. Like, what if that
point.
happened?
Well, I didn't understand physically that they were going into the machine and inverting until like the middle of the movie. Like, I didn't even understand that. And then they had probably the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, is like when he's watching through the glass with like the villain and his wife, and everything's happening in reverse, and it's reverse on the other side, and then it's coming through, like being translated, and you're like, visually everything's like coming together in that scene. You're like, oh, and then you watch him go back into it, and you're like, okay, that's what I just saw, and it hasn't happened yet. And then I was like, oh, things are starting to piece together. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the time they're showing any sort of like time thing. They're not actually showing anyone going into these machines anymore. It's just starting to happen.
Yeah.
And at that point, they're inverting the inverted time, so they're going forwards again, and then it just becomes a boring. Just, we went back in time, guys, walking around. But then why are things everywhere inverting all of a sudden?
I feel like
then I just started to check out, because I'm like, none of this makes sense anymore.
I invest myself pretty heavily to not give up on films, even when I'm like, you know, Linnell, sometimes my wife, she'll be like, oh, this is kind of dumb or whatever. I'll like still like try and like think like, how could, you know,
you want to finish it before you judge
I respect the filmmaker, you know, I respect what they're trying to do. I remember in this film when there was the end culmination and there was all the explosions happening, people going forward, people going backwards, they're going under the tunnel.
I was laughing at that part.
I honestly I don't do this normally, but I was literally like, I give up. I actually,
dude, the building exploding and then reversing and exploding again. I was like, that is the whole movie. It's like, look at
that's
this.
what's happening in my brain.
There's this idea that's like, yeah, it's in theory cool, makes no sense. There's no reason for it. Who are they shooting at? Who are they shooting at in that scene?
You know what was really funny? I said this to John, my friend, as it happened when he's first introduced to the idea of inversion, which of course we find out later wasn't the first time he heard about inversion, but in his experience was with the bullet and the scientist. And he asks a question, and she's like, don't try to understand
just
it.
Feel it.
And I said to my friend, I said, I'm pretty sure that's the entire idea of this whole movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't try to
That was
understand
Christopher Nolan being like, just feel it. I'm like, feel what?
I felt like that scientist was going to be a big part of it.
And I think that's important because that goes back to the dialogue thing. It goes back to everything. Like, I think that you're
right on that.
I think his intention was for you to not fully comprehend the concepts, and I think he wants you to see it more than once.
I agree with that.
I don't think he comprehends the concepts.
Well, I think
he's presenting. I think he's presenting these ideas, and then he's under explaining them, and just like, because they're not. He doesn't want it all to connect, and you to go, oh, okay, because I don't even think it makes sense to him.
I think
No,
it makes more sense than it does on the first pass. I think
I'm sure
I
it
agree
does.
with that. I think that it's intended to be watched more than once.
Yeah, but
Very
he does it in a way. Like I remember Dunkirk, I didn't quite get the timelines, but he left out enough information that I was like, I need to go watch it again. Oh, this timeline's a day. Oh, this timeline's a week. This one's an hour. Like I didn't understand that, and then it pieced together for me. On this one, I was like, I know he's going to do something where it's so confusing, especially when the opening scene, you don't know what's going on. I'm like, I know he's making it so that we have to go back and watch it again.
Yep,
and I could feel that in it, and it almost annoyed me because I don't think it would pay off. The amount of times I need to watch it to understand it, I don't think the payoff is there.
I don't know. I guess
I'm never gonna watch it again. Are you guys gonna watch it again?
I absolutely will watch it again.
I don't plan on watching it.
If
again.
someone's at my house,
I probably won't watch
watching
it. I won't go to theaters again because I don't want the exact same experience. The moment I can watch it at home and put subtitles on, I'm going to.
Like I've been
see that
fortunate.
happening.
I've been fortunate to talk all through this with Ben, who I saw it with, and we were bouncing ideas around, and it was like, oh, this is what made sense, this is what didn't, mostly didn't, and like you're coming in this like, oh, you haven't really talked about it yet, so it's like I was so confused leaving the theater. Like I had to look up videos like what the crap was Tenet about. Like I had to like Google that basically because by the time it ended, the ending. It gave me nothing. It didn't go back to the beginning. So like when we talk about rewatching it, it's like I don't think there would be another layer that I could see the beginning from because I still don't know what happened. I literally don't know what happened.
That partnership where he was like crying, I was like, even that.
What do you mean? In the end when it's suddenly he's emotional,
he's like crying
with Robert Pattinson.
Like I'm so removed from that.
Well, I didn't understand why. And then
No, I had a little moment there. I definitely felt
that was effective.
It was a little better than it was with the woman.
It's the best that I felt the whole movie about emotional engagement. But I was like, oh, he's realizing how deep their friendship went and how far, and he's also realizing that he just saved him, and he's also realizing that he's going to die right now. Right, all those things converged in my mind.
Yeah,
right
the challenge is understanding. This is why I think if you watch it again or 2 more times.
Yeah. How many hours of your life do you want to spend on understanding it?
Well, I know, and that's my point. I think everyone's going to be different on that. But I feel like it's almost like you need like a Rosetta Stone type thing in your mind where like if you better understand the concept, that the overarching concept, and you then rewatch the movie through that lens, it'll all kind of make more sense. Like the pieces will fit together better, because the problem is that you have throughout the movie you have certain people traveling forward in time, but eventually you realize that they haven't always been traveling forward in time, and then in the inverse of that, they've been traveling backwards in time, but they haven't always, and then you don't know from which perspective they're seeing each other, because no matter whether you're moving forward or backwards, the other person is going to look like they're moving backwards.
And they all had to go at the same time.
Will the Rosetta Stone tell us why he was interested in that woman and her bad marriage?
I'm not saying that the character development and the emotional part of that was all there. I'm just saying that I think it's a better movie.
He's like, I have to save her life. I was like, bro, why?
Yeah,
Why?
she literally in 2 seconds of having dinner with him is like, oh, like my husband. I'm like, who does this? Like that was my biggest problem with it. Was not even all of the like complex like plot points and like all of the like the ideas. It was the people don't treat other people this way. It just feels like they're robots.
The suspension of disbelief was carried all the way through to like, oh well, here's the hero.
You can't hear
here's
them.
The dame.
But the way they talk, they're like la 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 la. Scene cut. You're like, nobody talks like this.
I feel like he was trying to be almost like quirky and like fun with the dialogue cadence, and it was like putting me off. Like I was like, this doesn't feel like a real.
Dude. They sound like robots, literally.
Yeah.
Like they just, it's so dry.
They were
like
hammering.
That's
through
what
a lot
it
of
is
lines.
actually.
Yeah. They were literally. It was so quick, dude. It was like a trailer. They were cutting the movie like a trailer, and that's one thing that I usually don't get super invested in his movies. Like with the characters, it usually is about the spectacle. But in Interstellar, I did feel like the father-daughter relationship.
Same.
I felt that, and like in Matthew McConaughey, I think like was great in it, and he gave you time. He gave you like patient scenes that you sat in an environment and understood what was going on.
The gravity of it, no pun intended. You really did.
I even felt it more in Inception, even just with the marriage flashbacks. Like even that did it more for me than this movie did.
Well, they at least felt like a little more believable. Like I still watch Inception and I struggle struggle to care about their marriage, but it still feels like a realistic depiction of like a hard relationship dynamic. In this, it was like, yeah, I didn't understand the dynamic between anyone, and it all felt like information that he's like, like he has tucked away.
I know,
like
that's what I'm saying. I could
he'll
feel
never
that.
find the secret. It's like, but it's not open to interpretation. It's like a bunch of puzzle pieces that you're like, put the puzzle together.
And
but
I
I'm gonna hold all the key pieces.
I think that's more
like,
true.
That's really what
and
I was getting.
think. I mean, that's even the idea of the whole algorithm is all these different pieces that were scattered and hidden about that had to be found. That's like what the movie is.
I know.
And I might be more of his target audience with that because I'm like up for the challenge. Like I want to understand
but
it.
I feel like
same here. That's
no,
what
you don't want to. You're not like me.
I like things that are open to interpretation. I like mysteries that can be solved and you come to your own conclusion. I don't necessarily like puzzles that are like almost nearly impossible to solve or that are just not accessible. It's like,
yeah, but what you were just saying is actually, I totally forgot, but I felt this coming out of it was this film was actually more about Christopher Nolan than anything else. Like I felt like like I just watched him just spend all the money that he wanted to make a film that was everyone's going to talk about Christopher Nolan. And I don't know him. I don't know if he's a humble guy or whatever, but like I felt like it was all about the director and all about his idea and how crazy it was. And I felt that like
I could see that
during it.
Well, I don't think that if he was like starting out with this, that like any production company would put it out.
Totally not.
I do like whodunits. Like Silk Trees
I
was
do
written in a way that you were supposed to follow details so that it came together in the end.
Yeah, and he's a respect. I do respect his talent. He was definitely one of my favorites. It was just
that's what is making
feeling-
this frustrating, right? It's like when I watched Mulan. Like I was so angry because it was like my childhood was destroyed. It's like the new Star Wars movies or something. It's like it only strikes you because you're like, oh, that's something I love so much. It's like I really love Christopher Nolan's like vision and like his devotion to filmmaking. It's like that's why it was so like ugh.
I will say the scenes that he was able to pull off just stuck in my mind. Like I just think of the opening and just the way it was shot and the way it felt. Like if you take out all the lack of tying it together, the lack of glue and emotion and everything, him on a fire truck heisting out a whatever the heck that algorithm thing was.
I still
out of it, whatever that
scene,
was.
I wanted to care so much because I was like,
but
what's
looks
physically
so cool.
happening is really cool. A cool idea. Like
Stepping
they're
in-
crushing this car, like with two trucks.
And there's a cop like behind him.
I literally was looking at it like I still don't know what's going on.
No, but like if you were just to watch the scene for like pure like feeling, wow, like that's an action sequence.
Yeah,
there were so many cool. When they grappled up a wall in silence.
Yeah, or
up onto a building, or like
the whole truck scene. The truck heist was super cool.
Yeah.
But
did you know what was going on there? Because
I understood what they were doing. Yeah,
they wanted a thing and they were trying to get it. The other guys were like, no.
Where it got super confusing because they didn't introduce the idea of how these people were being inverted, and like who Andre, the Russian evil guy, like what his whole role and all of that was. That wasn't revealed until after that scene, I don't think. And so
it's like the end.
That whole heist scene and like the cars moving backwards and the passing of the crate, like that all became more clear later. But
all right, so can we talk about the antagonist and the protagonist real quick? Because like I feel like I didn't believe him as being this like
protagonist,
savior, like Bond film. Like we didn't have enough time with him.
He shoots the lady at the end. Like he's clearly not a good dude.
We didn't have enough time with him. And then also the villain, I felt like he was just like, oh, I'm really sad, so I'm gonna kill the whole world. Like it didn't like he didn't have another level to him either.
So
really sad, so I'm gonna kill the whole world.
His whole thing was that he was in this unmapped, hidden Russian city from the Soviet. That's where he grew up. And
you love this guy. Andre, I have a tattoo.
I'm just trying to think about.
You can see he was from.
I'm just trying
the Russian town.
I'm just trying to verbally process the.
He had a rough childhood.
The backstory, like why he was who he was in the movie.
All right, but let's be real. Are we ever going to see a movie in a movie theater ever again?
That's what I was going with this. It's like, what's the state of movies now?
This is weird too because there's so many different things going on. One, I think that Nolan is trying to make movies something different. Like I don't think that he presented this as like, oh, your traditional beginning, middle, and end movie. I think he's trying to like, movies are more like experiential puzzles, and they're like
he says that. He says he wants his films to be an experience.
He's like trying to change the form, you know what I mean? Which, whether you agree or disagree, I feel like he's doing it.
You said you were the only one in the theater.
Yes.
I was the only one in the parking lot at my theater.
So you have this weird experimental movie that's supposed to be like the big deal at a time that is already the most bizarre time to be living. Like the two collided in this like bizarre perfect storm. And so I went later in its runtime. You guys went in the beginning. It was completely empty. It was just me and my friend in this giant 300-seat theater. What was it like for you guys?
Same.
Smaller theater for us. I didn't do like the big IMAX style one. I just went to a regular thing, but there's no one else. It was a 7:00 showing, and the latest, and I was surprised. I thought it was a mistake. I think the latest one was 7:15. So nothing past like that 7, 8.
This was already the way things were going. I feel like with like streaming, I've expected to sort of take over.
Well, Trolls,
theaters,
right?
But
wasn't it Trolls that went, instead of going to theaters right when COVID hit, they went to streaming, and everyone
Trolls
was
2,
like,
world tour.
It went straight to streaming instead of theaters.
Yeah. Like, but I'm saying even like the last couple of years,
it's been trending.
Like theaters have been struggling.
It makes sense. It's the same argument of like, well, do I really want to go to a football game and like
just to be able to pause to go to the bathroom or get a snack? Oh my gosh!
But
like
never summer movies. Summer blockbusters were always still like drew the crowd, and that was why the studios just wanted to make those. That's it.
Yeah. So
No,
it's actually possibly more hopeful because it's like, hey, you can choose to watch whatever you want. You don't have to wait till the next like big Marvel movie to have people screaming in the theater with you. It's like the appeal is not there.
The last really cool experience I think was, what's the movie where they were completely silent the whole time?
What?
Where they did sign language and they couldn't speak.
Oh yeah,
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
Oh, I always want to call it something
Sign
else.
language.
Silent Place or something.
Silent Place. What was the movie where they were?
Is that the one with
There was a
Jim?
Yeah, Jim from The Office.
I didn't see that movie.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
great.
shit.
It was just so interesting being in a theater where everyone is quiet and there was one person with like a bag of chips, and it was just so frustrating. You're like, shut up, but you don't want to say shut up because everyone is completely silent in the theater together. It was like,
Huh.
I don't know.
That was not my experience.
What I wonder is, will this be a Band-Aid where because of COVID, because people were out of the theaters, that it's like almost kind of like ushering in a new time quicker? Like it's a catalyst to whatever was going, the direction that we were going with people. Now, I'm not saying I want to see cinemas shut down. I don't. I love cinemas.
You guys still have your movie pass?
There's a bunch of other companies that came out with different versions of that.
Cinemia.
Yeah.
I had Cinemia, and it was. Do you remember that, Cody? It was $7 a month.
Well, now it's like the companies that have the screens are putting them out. Like Showcase has theirs.
Yeah, the AMC switched to having their own. So basically, what happened was MoviePass came out, and we here all got it, and it was $9.99 a month, and you could see up
Unlimited.
to a movie a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we would go to the
7 days a
movies.
week.
And you know how many movies I went to during that year's subscription?
3.
Like 2.
That was my thing. I was about to do it, and then I realized I was looking back at when I go to movies. I'm like, I never don't go to the movies because it's too expensive. I go because I want to see the movie, and then I look. I'm like, how many movies am I going to go see this year? Probably 2. Like because I don't care.
It was worth
see
it at
most of them in
first,
theaters.
at the very start, because I was spending less. If I just saw one a month, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So I thought, wow, I'll keep it. And then a couple months that I didn't use it, they made that money back.
Do we know the ratio of what's being bought on the big streaming platforms, like shows to movies? Because it seems like the theater, like the old model, was like holding on, where people still wanted to try to get the Hollywood system was trying to get the movie into theater, or they wouldn't greenlight something unless they thought it would have a limited run and then go to streaming. But like, I'm wondering now, can't you just couldn't there be a model where you're not going to the cinemas because people aren't going to the cinemas enough, but there's still enough of a financial model. Like you see movies go to streaming, but they're usually like not movies I really want to see. I still haven't seen what's the De Niro, The Irishman? Oh wait, no, what is it?
Yeah,
The Irishman? Still haven't seen that. So maybe maybe there are examples of films that are like classic cinema type films.
Are you saying that you still are feeling like a lot of like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu originals don't have that same blockbuster draw? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, not so much I'm trying to say like I would be okay with watching really good movie at home. I would be okay with that. I prefer to go to the cinema, but if the whole world is just saying no, we're not going to the cinema and the business model isn't there, what I'm wondering is, what are the studios that are greenlighting good content for streaming? Because it seems like the good movies, at least back when, were going to the theater, cinemas, or maybe it's just what I was noticing. There's a lot of crap that went to the cinema too, and then the really bad movies straight to streaming, and I'm like, why does it have to be that far in extreme? Like,
no, it's just I don't think so. I think it's been like all across the board, just more content every year, and it's been like mostly just bad movies across the board, and once in a while there'd be a great
So it's just
Amazon
what I'm
original.
seeing.
I mean, the movie that me and Jamin went to see with Joaquin Phoenix, You Were Never Really Here,
Great movie.
was like honestly like still in like my top 10 at this point. Like I was that movie, like I don't know why, it just like blew me away, and that's an Amazon original. Amazon is like I feel like consistently like able to do something a little more, I don't want to say risky, but like will be a little more surprising than I
so that'd be a good case study to know about, because it's an Amazon original, but it had a limited theater release. I mean, you guys saw it in theaters.
Yeah, a very, very small theater in Brookline, which those are the ones that I think are going to probably be like state funded or something, because they're going to be like landmarks. They're not going to want to close these things because there's nothing else they could be. Like these big showcase cinemas, like they can plow, like it's just all there's no like historical site there. It's just like just bang it down and make it an Old Navy. But like an old theater like that, where it's like, it's just like a big movie screen. It's not even like a giant, it's like going it's like sitting in your living room. It's like cozy, I love that.
Why not just stay in your
Those are
living
gonna
room?
well, no, I'm saying
I know.
obviously great. Like I actually like watching movies.
It's just funny because now
just as much
you look at how good shows are, and maybe this is what you were saying a second ago, but it's just such a shift, because I think of when I was a kid and you'd sit down and watch, wow, we're going to watch The Lord of the Rings 3 in a row. Like, that's insane. And it's like now, like, I feel like when my kids are older, I'll be like, this is a movie. It's like one episode of a series, but there's nothing after and nothing before. It's really weird because they don't tell you anything more than this one episode. That's all you're going to have. I feel like now it's like, well, why is there not 3, 4, 5 seasons?
And don't get me wrong, I think great shows are awesome. Like, but it's when the shows became more like movies that we started saying they were amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, what I think there's like the cinematic look, but then there's also the like the desire to not have to wrap it up after 1 hour every episode. Like I think slowly we've been moving towards. I just finished the Return of Twin Peaks, and so I was looking up stuff about it, and a lot of people mark it as like the first like the show that changed TV, because it started to make it so they don't wrap things up every hour. Like they don't even wrap up things up the first season. Like you have to keep watching and like solve the mystery, and it's also shot not just like reverse shot wide, like walking through a hallway. Like it's actually shot in a very like cinematic lighting kind of like unique way, Dutch angles and like all this stuff. And before that you had shows that were just like you just had it on in the background.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder if it's a lot of the same. I mean, I guess we would have to find this out, but I just think it's a lot of the it's like what you said about Marvel. You get into this, the studios say this is working, this is what's going to happen, we're going to keep doing this, and then you have people that aren't satisfied, or filmmakers that come through. I think a lot, like HBO or other services where they want better quality, and then it starts to work, and once it starts to work, they keep replicating that, and then it ripples and ripples and ripples, and now it's like the normal. What's next? I don't know.
Well, I think no matter what, it's going to be what works financially.
That's where I'm going. That's like that's why I'm saying like what model? It feels like we're between models, and it feels like. Well, have you guys has anyone seen any Apple TV Plus content?
No.
I don't have Apple TV, so.
What was the show?
I haven't tried it either, but I'm interested to because they pulled in a lot of good directors, writers, whatever. I'm like,
was The Mandalorian not Apple TV?
Disney.
That was Disney.
It was Disney Plus.
And you've seen all the commercials for what's the Quibi?
Yeah.
Has anyone done that?
No idea.
The Reno 911. There seemed like actually at first they were all trash looking, terrible. Then they started to come out with like, wow, I would actually watch that, but I don't know anyone who has it.
I mean, if you look, I think if the question is cinema, the traditional cinema experience going to endure? I don't think it is. Otherwise, I don't think you'd have all of the biggest companies in the world putting as much time and energy into streaming as they are. And I think if there was a chance for the standard cinema experience to endure, it went away when COVID happened. I think.
I definitely think there's a good signs point to yes on that. But
is this the death of cinema?
And I actually, I thought I would really hate that that's the case. But I think it's been so gradual over time that I'm like, okay, well, if that is the way it is, then I just need a good source of great. I don't want to like sort. My biggest thing is we sit down and we're pawing through Netflix and we're looking for anything.
Please, something new.
And I'm like, something new, something good, something we can all watch as a family. I'm like, that's killing me.
Yeah. Do you think we're gonna make it?
And I go right out into Amazon and try the same thing there.
I wonder if there's a model where they take the cinema experience, like in terms of accessibility and like the money part. I'm just thinking like if there was like a Showtime platform, for example, you just take a movie theater chain, and like you can't watch the movie.
You mean
until
Showcase?
It's Showcase Cinemas, whatever. Sorry, Showtime's the channel, but you can't watch a movie until it's released on their platform. You watch it at your house, but you have to buy it. Like it's like literally recreating it, but you're watching it at home. I wonder if that would work, but. And then it's only available for a while until it does migrate to the other platforms or something. I don't know, but I don't think that people are going to be going to theaters in droves like they used to.
I think that there's still going to be theaters. It's just going to be something that they already know it's not going to be the main moneymaker, and there's just going to be a select few people like Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino who are like so hell-bent on like, there's a theater, like IMAX, like 70 millimeter. These people who are like purists, I really think they're going to fight for their like theater spots, and those are the movies that they're the only ones that keep me going anyway. So like going to the theater, and I don't know, I'm hopeful that that's gonna stay, like that's gonna stick around. I don't think all movie theaters are just gonna be empty.
I don't think there's gonna be any room in theaters for bad movies anymore. Like if it's gonna keep going, like I just mean like I went last night. They have like 20 theaters, right? And only one of them is showing the one movie that's available. And all those other, it's just like big empty rooms. Like what is going to happen to all that? I don't know.
They're trying to get people to go to like watch parties and go to old, like they're going to like play old movies and all this stuff.
The rise of the Omni Theater.
I'm like, what is happening?
Have you guys been to an Omni Theater?
Have your Super Bowl party at Showcase Cinemas. It's like, what?
You lay back, you watch the dome, and you watch how beavers migrated.
Beavers migrating
across the Atlantic Ocean. Do you think we're going to survive this theater thing, or do you think nobody's going to want to watch our content anymore?
They weren't watching it in theaters to begin with.
It's not even the same. It's not even nowhere near.
People have to go to theaters to watch podcasts.
Yeah.
That's the future.
I think it'd be cool if there was a way to like aggregate your favorite filmmakers and styles and genres and have like a watch later, but it was across all platforms, all devices.
It's kind of like Stitch Fix, but like for movies.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's like clothing where you put in what your style is, and
exactly.
A stylist will curate here's shoes. If you don't like them, you don't pay for them.
How is that? And I would pay a little bit
algorithm already
for
does
that
it, right?
their next film to be in my queue, you know, across a bunch of filmmakers or whatever. Like, it's my own curated list of people that I love.
So
and follow.
you're doing it, and not Netflix is doing it for you.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like I would watch.
It's
the
so funny.
next-
Always Sunny has done episodes on almost everything we've talked about. They talk about how the Netflix algorithm, tells you what to watch, and therefore you watch it, and you take all the thinking out of content consumption. What was the other thing we were talking about?
I feel like I do what you're saying manually. Like I look
Right.
at my favorite directors. I'm up to date on what they're working on, what is
Same.
released, and then I'm like, as soon as this is
Yeah.
released,
I do it with
renting
IMDb.
Avatar
I keep
2.
a little list. I'm like, oh, they're working on that. I go
Avatar
back
3.
and Google it. When is it going to come out?
Yeah.
I just want to see it there in IMDb or something, and just be like, add to watch later. And it's
Avatar
just
4.
there.
Have
Maybe-
you seen that? Have you seen the IMDb for James Cameron?
You could pre-raise all
It's
kinds
a
of
joke.
money.
It's Avatar like
It's
2,
a
3, 4,
joke,
5,
dude.
6.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like,
that's what they'll do.
shit.
Maybe theaters will just be, so you have a theater that has 4 screens in it, and you go there and all 4 screens are showing the same big movie.
Oh, like a drive-in, but inside.
They're just showing less movies, but you know what I mean? So it's like they're just these big special movies are like events that a lot of people go to.
So it's almost like there's a gap in the market right now. We could come up with something.
Guys, we're going to pivot. We're going to become a tech company.
But think about it.
off
I
of
mean,
this.
make it more of an experience. Make it fun. You know, it's like how everyone could wear headphones and VR goggles or something and show up to one place.
That's why
and-
drive-ins are doing well right now, because
Yeah.
it's like I literally
I just
have
went to
like
the Princess Bride the other day.
you did
Yeah, but
Yeah.
COVID.
yeah I have
It was
like
great.
the Blu-ray of these movies that they're playing, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally gonna go watch the Goonies at the drive-in, just because it's its own experience.
Yeah, we saw Jurassic Park at the end of last year.
Those are
and
just
the
great
other
drive-in
week-
movies because they're like
Yeah.
you're just like you feel like you're on like a little mini adventure, and like being outside, and there's like woods right there, and there's,
That's what I think things are going to... It's either, why would I leave my house?
yeah.
Because I can just watch it and have good sound, have a sound bar, have snacks, have everything I want. Or I want to go out and be social. I want to do something adventurous. I think there's going to have to be something.
You make a date out of it now.
Yeah.
Now it's a big thing. It's like it's not just like, hey, want to make dinner and just like sit on the couch.
Votary Cinema. What do you think?
Yeah.
We rent this place out.
Cinema Media Films. Well, 4:30. It's been an hour and a half.
Really?
Whoa.
Well, about an hour.
Tenet sucked.
All right. Anyways,
Anyway,
Christopher Nolan, last film ever.
state of the industry address.
I would watch it again. I will watch it again.
Oh, I heard that somewhere.
I want to understand it.
If
What are
you-
some other films
You know
that
what
you
is
guys are
so
interested
funny?
in seeing? Does
Before-
anyone have any on their radar?
Before we say that, it's so funny how Cody is so retentive and that he has to have everything make sense. That's why he liked Tenet, because he has this urging inside of him.
As soon as it
to
makes
connect
sense to
the
you,
dots.
in like 7 years, you come to me and you try to explain it.
I
and
want to
my brain
understand.
will check out halfway through your explanation.
I love doing that though. When maybe this is why I do like Christopher Nolan, is because I like to
just realize that.
I like to dig in and try to figure out like exactly what he was going for and what all that.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely am up for trying, just like what Jono said earlier. Like, I think it's really respectful
Yeah.
to the... If you go through writing and directing something to carry it all the way through
Mhm.
post, it's like a tremendous amount of work. Like, I can empathize with that, and I want to try to figure out what they were trying to do. It's just, if it falls flat, you're like, okay.
So to your question of is there
I don't
anything that
think
we're
he
really looking forward to?
wanted you though.
To
Yeah,
watch?
I don't.
I mean, the only things I didn't even know about the movie, like the trailers from last night. Like they're doing like this crazy looking Dune
I saw that,
remake. What else? Oh,
That looks pretty good.
they're rebooting.
I like the director.
They're rebooting the Saw franchise with Chris Rock. Did you see that?
Oh.
Stop it.
Yeah, no, it's called
They're redoing the what?
Saw.
You
wanna play a game?
They're
That whole thing?
Wait a minute. They're starting from scratch.
I don't know where. I think it's like a continuance, like the killer or someone else
And Chris Rock is like.
is the main guy, and
What?
and it's called Spiral. It's like
So why not just make a new? This is a whole nother conversation. Just like
okay, so I saw that.
like,
I
just
saw
make new
the Dune
ideas.
remake. The Dune remake looked insane. Like I have no idea if I
Did
wanna
you
watch
like
it.
Blade Runner 2049?
That was the recent one with what's his face, handsome guy there?
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
It,
And
I love that director.
Did you like it? Yeah, I think I saw
I think
it.
I saw it. I don't remember.
Oh,
So
where
you
the
didn't
person
like it
gets
much.
like pooped out of a sack and falls on the ground in the middle of an empty room, and they're
Yeah.
all squishing around.
It was a great film.
Oh yeah, and it's orange and
loved it.
blue. the
I
whole
did too.
time.
Super orange. I remember that.
That's when I would watch again because I watched it with people who were like, "What the heck is?"
I'm
going
not
on?
saying
I
his
hate it."
name, the director, because I already know I'm going to say it wrong. Denny
Okay.
Villeneuve or something.
Villeneuve.
But he
Yeah.
any movie I've ever seen of his has been like it,
Oh, he's
from
awesome.
a direction and like cinematography and like experience. It's been great.
How about Fincher's new film, Mank?
I don't know what that is.
It's supposed to, it says 2020. It follows screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz' tumultuous development of Orson Welles' iconic masterpiece, Citizen Kane.
What do you
in
mean?
black and white.
It
It's the
follow-
writer. It's the
Oh, I
story
saw
of the
that
writer
trailer. Yeah.
of Citizen Kane.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
about it's
And David
specifically
Fincher.
about the
I mean,
writer.
come on, Fincher's amazing.
He's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, he's a little like. You're like,
What?
It's
No,
a
no,
little edgy, you know.
The movies
Oh,
I
he
like
is
of
edgy,
his,
but he's-
the movies
yeah,
I
it's
like
still-
of his,
still
I really
respectable.
like. The movies I don't like of his, I just
What don't you
I
like?
never go back to. Like Zodiac.
I just had that conversation with Jai.
Dude,
That's
I actually didn't
probably
mind
my.
Zodiac.
Gone Girl.
I liked Gone Girl more than Zodiac.
Well, Gone Girl, I actually think was effective because it made me sick. It
Yeah.
actually made me like
Same.
feel sick.
Same.
But
That's one I only saw one time that I was like, wow, I should watch that again.
yeah.
Just over the top imagery where you're just like, whoa.
I know. Overall, I think he's pretty good. Panic Room was like not bad. It wasn't. It was kind of like just okay.
I forgot
But, I mean,
that was him.
Fight Club. When I first saw Fight Club, was like that was like one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies growing up.
Mhm.
Seven.
Seven's pretty good. Yeah, Seven's good.
I actually hadn't seen that whole film, and so I watched it I think last year with a friend who had never seen it. And
Seven?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
What about The Game? Did you ever see The Game?
The
That's
game
on my
is
list.
really good.
The Game is so good.
The
that
game I
was-
have not seen.
Wait,
You would
that
like-
was him?
You would like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
What-
you
what-
told me about
well-
the game. I'd never heard of it.
Oh
and
my
it's on my
gosh.
list. It's on my list.
It's a dope movie. Yeah.
Anyways, we should wrap. We
All
should
right.
wrap it up.
Rip it.
You
I feel like
lay
we
some
could-
bars, bro.
I
this
think
was all about the state of movies today and maybe where it will go. We're not going to do this every time, but hey, this is what we talk about.
I
and
hope
think
we do
about.
it when it makes sense to do it. We had to watch. We had to talk about Tenet. We had to.
True.
The only
Yeah,
movie. in
movies
the
are not dead.
theaters.
And we're gonna keep talking about it off air. I already
good movies are not dead.
God's not dead.
know. God's not dead.
God's not
Four.
dead.
God's not dead. 4 in theaters. This
Really, that's what this is about.
For long.
I do feel like
Reboot.
I feel like there's so many movies like we just talked about from a decade or two past that are so good that young people today who are into cinema don't know anything
feel like-
about. It would be almost worth another podcast where we took a movie, watched it from back when, and then pitched it, or like talked about it and told people to
I'd be down.
watch it or don't watch it.
I didn't think
book club, but
I didn't
movie
think we
club?
mentioned any really obscure movies.
No, I just mean
The
right at
thing
the end
is-
there we were talking about like stuff from back, like The Game and all that. Like that,
For people who
my
love
kids would know
movies,
The Game.
Really?
For people like you
Yeah.
who love movies, these are not out of the ordinary. But like I remember, for me, just growing up watching like the basic
Air Bud.
Yeah, Air Bud, and Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3, and maybe Star Wars. It's like
I know.
to hear you and like a lot of other people talk so much about these classic films that I'd be like, oh great, my list is like
Oh, endless.
so endless. I gotta
Really?
go back and watch all this stuff.
Endless like our podcasts.
And then I'm embarrassed.
Let's
to say
wrap
I
it
haven't
up.
Seen it?
Where's that end music?
We're gonna have to put a disclaimer that this is like jumps right into spoilers.
Oh,
Yeah.
spoilers.
We're saying
we'll
that at
put,
the
we'll put it. We'll put it in right here. All right. Spoiler alert.
You just heard spoilers.
You just heard some spoilers for this.
Sorry
film.
for those spoilers. We just sorry.
Well, inverted spoilers coming your
All right.
way.
Here, wait. I'll do a clean one, then we can cut.
Tenet. It would be the same. Tenet.
Yeah, that's right.
Put that in reverse.
All right. So if I do one right here, we can cut it into the beginning. Okay. There's spoilers about the film Tenet, where time is inverted, and at the end, he is actually knowing about it the whole time. It was just so you don't want to hear about that. Make sure you skip.
Armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world,
Skip
a
to the
protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold something beyond real time. Even that gives you like an ice cream headache. Just like reading that
Ice cream
description.
It's like when you
Armed
drink
with
from the
only
bubbler.
one word that he never ever says.
He
and
said-
given instruction that doesn't make sense.
Never say Tenet. Oh wait, don't do this.
Yeah, right. so
So stupid.
gosh.
Goodbye.
I have one
All right.
word for you.
See you later, everybody.
Oh man.